Patrick Mahomes has had a remarkable NFL career, but today we're going to see what could have happened if he chose to play baseball instead. Pat was briefly a two-sport athlete at Texas Tech, but gave up on baseball to focus on becoming an NFL quarterback, so we're going to rewrite history and see if he could have become baseball's next dominant two-way player, beginning his journey with the team that drafted him in the 37th round. Coming in at only 60 overall, Patrick has a long road to become a premier player, so he has to develop every part of his game. His first start on the mound was going better than I expected with 3 scoreless innings, but his low stamina really held him back in the 4th as he gave up a double down the line and eventually his first 2 runs. However, holding a stacked Rays team to 2 runs is a huge win for any pitcher, and Patrick picked up his first hit in the 8th inning. This was a tough loss, but Patrick's encouraging game earned him a spin from the stat wheel. This can either hurt or help Mahomes, and we lucked out, earning a 10-point contact boost. We're gonna spin the wheel after Mahomes reaches big milestones, and hopefully this helps him out because in this video, Pat needs to make an All-Star game, win a World Series, earn an MVP, and eventually be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. So not only does Mahomes have to play well, but we have to build a God squad around him, and the Tigers are one of the worst teams in baseball. I dumped expensive players like Javi Baez to load up on prospects, but building a championship team was going to take some time. Patrick was facing off against a good Blue Jays team, putting together a good first inning. Unfortunately though, he was still a 60 overall rookie, so even the smallest mistakes were going to be fatal. We needed to get back into this game, and Mahomes wanted to do it himself, taking advantage of this high slider and hitting his first ever no-doubt blast. I realized that while 50 ratings are terrible for a pitcher, you can still hit plenty of bombs, and this changed everything as Manoah left another slider over the plate and Patrick had his second home run of the game. Despite losing, this was easily the best game of Mahomes' young career and seemed to give him some momentum as he had a chance to earn his first shutout. This win would definitely earn Patrick another wheel spin, and thankfully he stayed sharp, forcing soft contact and only allowed 1 hit. I was hoping for some pitching upgrades, but anything helps, and I definitely couldn't complain about its plus 10 power boost. I hoped that the new upgrades would help Pat lead a comeback against the Royals, and he managed to get aboard with a weak 9th inning single. However, the rest of the team was so bad that he didn't have the chance to be the hero. Mahomes was frustrated and took out his anger against the White Sox, knowing from the start that this opposite field shot was leaving the yard. That power upgrade finally came in clutch, and Pat helped his team get the win. He was putting up decent hitting numbers at the All-Star break, but his pitching desperately needed a boost. The Tigers were in the bottom of their division at 32-58, and I wanted to use the trade deadline to start rebuilding this team. I thought a solid reliever would help Mahomes get more wins, and good young bats like Steven Kwan and Jake McCarthy were desperately needed. If you haven't caught on, this isn't supposed to be realistic at all, and I continued to be blown away by this game's garbage trade logic, getting Luis Rise and Ryan Mountcastle for absolutely nothing and dumping some more salaries for Gabriel Moreno. Just a few moves turned us into a much better team as we suddenly had a scary good lineup. We debuted our new team against Seattle, and they were already elevating Mahomes' game as he went yard in his first game after the All-Star break, which was the only positive in a brutal loss. Pat was on the mound for this redemption game against Kansas City, and he needed a great game. He started with 2 scoreless innings before smoking a double in his first at-bat to put 2 runners in scoring position. The team managed to score him from second, and Mahomes returned the favor, continuing to pitch a gem. Pat was the biggest reason the team was winning in this one, and he continued to show his value, gapping his second double of the game to score another run, which proved to be the dagger in an impressive game. We built a great young team, but it was a rookie Patrick Mahomes who emerged as the MVP of this victory, and he earned another upgrade. The wheel had a chance to kill our momentum, but we lucked out with the chance to get 1 stat up to 99 and addressed one of the most important pitching stats, walks per 9. The upgrade boosted Mahomes' overall all the way to 73, which helped the Tigers get out of the division cellar. Patrick's final start of the season was against the division-leading Guardians, and this game did not start off well at all. With runners at the corners, we turned a double play, but still gave up an early run. However, Mahomes was able to find his groove on the mound. In return, Mahomes came up with a huge RBI in his first at-bat to cushion Detroit's lead. Cleveland wouldn't go away and managed to cut into our lead with 2 more runs in the 5th, but thankfully, Mahomes sent them home himself, capping off his rookie season with a 3-run blast. Obviously, we didn't make the playoffs and didn't accomplish any video goals this year, but even despite Mahomes' poor stat line, he looked much better down the stretch, and things are looking up in Detroit. I knew we had to continue building around Mahomes and added a quality starter in Jack Flaherty. Also, Ahmed Rosario gets a lot of hate in real life, but he develops really well in this game and was an absolute bargain. These additions, along with the improvement of our young core, had me thinking the playoffs were possible in Mahomes' second year. Patrick's pitching was not good in his rookie year, so I was surprised this 61-mile-an-hour knuckleball recorded a double play. From there, he proved he didn't need to throw hard to be effective, and while he didn't get a hit in this game, his pitching performance was more than than enough. I decided to spin the wheel for the start of Season 2, and it was even more help to our offense with plus 10 to all hitting stats. The Tigers started the season 4-1, and Mahomes' new offensive abilities made him one of the biggest hitting threats on our team. On the mound against Kansas City, his ridiculous knuckleball picked up a strikeout, and he stayed scoreless into the 4th inning, but finally gave up a run. To make things worse, our bats didn't show up in this game, so Patrick took matters into his own hands, getting aboard with another single before Steven Kwan finally showed up on this double. We woke up after that and didn't waste Mahomes' one-run effort. The Tigers led the division at 52-39, and a big reason for that was an offensive breakthrough for Patrick, as he managed to make an all-star game at his secondary position, leading all first basemen in home runs and RBIs. This completed the video's first challenge, giving Mahomes another wheel spin, and we managed to strike gold yet again, maxing out our hits per 9, putting Patrick up to an 86 overall. He was rapidly becoming an elite player and helped our team get up to rank 11. Just as we had hoped, Patrick and our young talent kept improving, making the playoffs with 97 wins. We were in extras against the Blue Jays in Game 1 of the ALDS, and Patrick wanted to get into scoring position, sending the entire outfield on the run like a deep ball to Tyreek Hill to help his team walk it off. This was Mahomes' first playoff win, so we got to spin the wheel, but this time he got unlucky, losing 10 contact points. He was on the mound for Game 2 and only gave up 1 run in 6 innings. Then, despite the contact nerf, he managed to get aboard with a weak opposite field single. Then with 2 aboard, our big free agent signing, Amed Rosario, delivered a huge double to score Mahomes and tie the game. A World Series win would help complete our second challenge. However, Pat was struggling to close out the 7th. With 2 aboard and 1 out, this single was all it took for the Jays to tie the game again. This is where we needed our big trades to pay off, and Jake McCarthy got us started with a huge no-out triple. Arise would then do what he does best, looping a clutch single to retake the lead, and Mahomes continued the rally with an RBI of his own. This was a battle, but this breakthrough was too much for the Blue Jays as they surrendered in game number 2. We would go on to win the ALDS, allowing Patrick to spin the wheel again, and another stat decrease would be devastating, but thankfully, he got one of the best results possible, earning plus 10 to all hitting and pitching stats to become a 94 overall. He was finally the best player on our team going into the ALCS against Boston. However, things were bleak after falling behind in the series 2-0. Mahomes was on the mound for Game 3, and his improved stats were not looking like enough after this double. Thankfully though, he was able to settle back in and get out of the inning. Aaron Nola was also pitching a great game, and we were neck and neck through the 4th. Still, Mahomes continued to pitch well, and our offense finally broke through with a 3-run 5th inning, which was enough for a big win. We had a chance to tie up the series in Game 4, and Mahomes missed an early opportunity to drive in a run. Thankfully, our offense came to play, and Patrick found his redemption in the 5th on this automatic double into the right center gap. He had another 2-hit performance and helped the Tigers tie the series. Our entire team was firing on all cylinders early in Game 5, and Ryan Mountcastle absolutely launched this deep drive off the wall. However, your best player needs to step up, and Mahomes chased the first pitch out of the zone for weak contact. That missed opportunity sent us to extra innings, and Mahomes continued his hitless day with a pop-up. Everyone falls into a slump sometimes, but it's a terrible feeling when the rest of your team has to carry you to victory, and that's exactly what happened here. Patrick wanted to prove that this was just a bad game, but he failed to come up big in Game 6, celebrating an ALCS comeback win that he had nothing to do with. It was the World Series, and Mahomes needed to get out of his slump. While he did come up big with the first run of the game, they lost Game 1. Pat was on the mound for a very important Game 2, and held his own despite not getting a hit on offense. Things were looking scary in the 7th, but he clutched it out and the series was tied. However, I began to fear that the Padres had too much talent for this Tigers team, as our bats completely disappeared in a blowout loss. Mahomes hadn't gotten a hit since Game 1, and his struggles continued as he grounded into a double play to leave 2 runners stranded. However, knowing he needed to snap out of it in the 5th inning, he would not be denied on this deep shot to left, clearing the fence for a go-ahead nuke. This is where legends are made, and Mahomes was trying to establish himself as the face of baseball. Unfortunately, this Cinderella story was in jeopardy after the Padres won Game 5, and 1 home run was not going to be enough for Patrick Mahomes to save his team from the jaws of defeat. We tragically lost the World Series, and you know this is a feeling that Mahomes will never forget. But on the bright side of everything, life is gonna be good in Detroit, as we've built a great young roster and have many top prospects on the way up. On top of that, the Red Sox drafted a generational shortstop, and for whatever reason, the game's trade system thinks that Amed Rosario would be enough to get him. So not only did we land a 99 potential rookie, but we also signed some guy named Juan Soto in free agency, giving Patrick Mahomes this universe's Travis Kelce, just so we can get Taylor Swift at all of our games. No! This new lineup was absolutely ridiculous, and our team rank was up to number 3 right before the season. Patrick Mahomes would be making his first start as our ace, but first we needed to spin the wheel, and if our offseason wasn't crazy enough, Mahomes gets to upgrade another stat to 99, and I think it's time to max out his stamina. It was opening day against the Guardians, and they were fighting for our division crown. Unfortunately for them, we had 97 overall Patrick Mahomes. Cleveland put up a pretty good fight, but they forgot about our generational rookie, and the 18-year-old went yard in his very first game. Our bats caught fire after that as Pat picked up his first RBI and we got the win. We were down in the 9th against Toronto, but they were not careful pitching to our best player who rocketed a double off the wall to tie this game. This game would go into extras and our team would not be denied, pulling off their biggest win of a successful season. As expected, Pat Mahomes had a lot to do with this hot start, but he'd be put to the test after losing 10 points to his power. The All-Star break was approaching and Pat had a chance to make the game as a pitcher, but had just one start to go. Unfortunately, this game was not off to a great start after this RBI double. Mahomes managed to earn that run back with this first inning RBI single and would later look to extend Detroit's lead with another in the 4th. Despite this was one of Mahomes' worst start of the entire season and he lost his chance to become an all-star pitcher. However, he earned a wheel spin for making the game on offense, but landed on the Wheel of Doom. This absolutely evil wheel has a 50% chance of completely destroying Pat's career, and I was definitely holding my breath, but thankfully, he can live another day. Our entire team was raking at the All-Star break, with Mahomes leading in RBIs as our team held a huge division lead. Detroit was the best team in baseball, and this was no shock with Pat Mahomes leading the charge on our way to 100 wins and another run at the World Series. We prepped for the playoffs with a wheel spin, and Mahomes earned +10 to all pitching stats right before his first start. Patrick Mahomes was now in the 99 club, and the Orioles were definitely terrified of having to deal with him on the mound and in the batter's box. Mahomes went 8 innings deep, and we embarrassed Baltimore in Game 1. Then, the O's made this interesting, taking a 5-0 lead as Pat tried to start a rally for Detroit, hitting a single, and even using his mid-speed to swipe a bag. He would score along with 2 other runs, and Baltimore watched their lead shrink before their eyes as Mahomes launched a 7th inning RBI double. Down 1 in the 9th, Patrick Mahomes didn't want a repeat of last year's playoff slump and came up with a huge double to keep the game alive. However, he watched 3 teammates strike out as Baltimore took Game 2. Both teams were fighting for the series lead, and Game 3 was undecided in the 14th inning. After 3 doubles in his last game, Mahomes finally broke the silence and became the winning run of this great game. By this point, the Orioles were mentally defeated and could not deal with another set of Patrick Mahomes doubles as the Tigers advanced to the championship series. We were up against the Yankees, and they had built a good young team of their own, but we had Mahomes on the mound. He continued to swing a hot bat on the 2nd inning single, but the Yankees scored 2 runs. With his back against the wall, Mahomes delivered when his team needed him most, tying this game back up with a 2-run shot. Then he locked back in on the mound, and Detroit stole Game 1. It was Detroit's turn to get out to an early lead, and Mahomes went the other way for his 2nd home run in 2 games. However, 2 in 2 games wasn't nearly enough for him, and he wanted to carry the Tigers on his back with his deep center field shot. After last season's World Series loss, Mahomes really had something to prove. Unfortunately for him though, it takes a whole team to win, and ours simply didn't show up today. We lost Game 3, falling to 2-1, and our bats really broke through as Mahomes doubled to put 2 in scoring position. However, our team couldn't score either of them, and this was costly as we lost the lead and went to extras. However, this game still wasn't settled after 14 innings. It was inning number 17, and Patrick Mahomes thankfully wanted to call it a night, going oppo for the first run in extras as Detroit evened the series. These were Patrick's playoffs, and he desperately wanted to get back to the World Series, launching his 5th home run of the postseason, and his hot streak had the Yankees facing elimination. Unfortunately for them, Mahomes was back on the mound, and this was obviously their worst nightmare in a must-win game. They managed to score a run, but Patrick just earned it right back at the plate, and his absolute gem put the Tigers back in the World Series. Mahomes was brilliant in the ALCS, and he could be even better in the World Series, as he got another 10-point boost to all of his stats. In a highly anticipated matchup, the league's premier two-way players would face off in the World Series. Ohtani got the best of Mahomes in their first at-bat, but Mahomes came through when his team needed him most, going deep and gone for playoff home run number 6. But he was not done in game number 1. Tied up at 2 apiece, he wanted to go deep off of Ohtani again, leaving no doubt about who the best player in baseball is. Mahomes was brilliant, and the Tigers took game 1 along with the next 2. They could avenge last season's World Series loss with a huge sweep, and down 1, Patrick Mahomes wanted to do exactly that, driving in 2 with the bases loaded. Unfortunately for the Dodgers, he was also on the the mound for this one, and there was no chance he was going to lose as Patrick Mahomes and the Detroit Tigers became World Series champions. This is a huge win, but Mahomes' journey was only beginning. At just 21 years old, we had plenty of time to win an MVP and play out the best player in baseball's Hall of Fame career. We added Vlad Jr. to our God squad and began Patrick's quest for an MVP. This 38 home run, 122 RBI, 2.16 ERA season would have been more than enough in real life, but surprisingly, he didn't even place in the top 3. The MVP would have to wait as our team cruised to an 118 win season and had 4 players in the top 7 for hits. We bullied our way to the World Series, which was a rematch against the Dodgers. With a 3-0 series lead, Mahomes sparked a comeback in the bottom of the 3rd with this double, then helped the Tigers eventually take the lead with another one. The Tigers completed the huge comeback and Mahomes matched his Super Bowl win total. The Mahomes, Soto, Vlad trio was the baseball version of an NBA Big Three, and their next season ended up being Mahomes' best yet as he took home the Silver Slugger, the Cy Young, and finally the AL MVP. This was well deserved, even over Juan Soto, who hit 47 bombs and 142 RBIs. There was no doubt that they would be back in the World Series, and they were looking for the three-peat. The Pirates fought, but they were no match for this generational lineup as Mahomes delivered the dagger and the Tigers remained champions. Patrick Mahomes would go on to win 6 World Series, 6 MVPs, 7 Cy Youngs, and make 10 All-Star games before retiring at the age of 40 after a historic career. He became one of the best players in baseball history, and he's going to the Hall of Fame with longtime teammate Juan Soto.